there, welcome to this lesson. Now that you know how to move around the interface, let's have a first look at the animation in After Effects. Open a new 1080 by 1080 composition at 24 frames. Name it and give it 3 seconds. Let's start with a simple exercise that will help you understand how the animation process works in After Effects. A ball bounce. We are going to import a scene that we have prepared and previously separated by layers in Adobe Illustrator. Don't worry about this now. In future lessons, we will show you how to prepare your illustrations for the After Effects. Drag the imported composition into the main composition, and then double-click inside the composition. As you can see, we have a ball, shadow, and a background image. Before we start animating, select the soccer ball layer. Then, select the pan behind tool and place the anchor point at the base of the ball. As we will animate the scale later, we wanted to take that point as a reference. Now, open the transformation properties of the ball. All these properties can be animated. We can also modify its values directly from here. First, we are going to animate the position, for which we need to create the first keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch. Now, advance 10 frames on the timeline. You can see the frame counter on the left. We can create a new keyframe by pressing the diamond here or directly change the position of the ball. When changing the position, it creates a new keyframe. We can now preview the animation. For this, just press 0 on the numpad or the spacebar. Finally, advance 10 more frames and copy and paste the first keyframe in this position. Preview again. And now, we can see the complete path of the ball. If you are a little lost, don't worry. I'm going to do a detailed review so that nothing escapes you. First, we need to locate the time indicator at the moments of the timeline where we want the animation to start. To create a keyframe, you need to click on the stopwatch. To create another keyframe, we need to advance in the timeline and modify the values. We can change the values from the viewport or from the timeline. We can also copy a keyframe. To copy a keyframe, we need to select it first, and you can only paste it in the place where the timeline marker is located. Returning to After Effects. I like the timing, so we just need to adjust the size of the workspace to the duration of the animation. For this, we place a frame before the final keyframe and press the End key. We can also adjust it by clicking and dragging. We can change the size of the composition to the duration of the work area by right-clicking here and choosing the Trim Come to Work Area option. Now, the composition has the same length as the animation, and we have achieved a perfect loop. But still, we need to do some tricks to make the animation look good. Right now, the animation runs at a constant speed, and this gives it an unnatural look. To solve this, we need to slow down the movement of the ball at the top of the path. Pressing F9 or right-clicking the keyframe, select Keyframe Assistant, is ease. We create an automatic smoothing of the keyframe movement. As you see, we need to smooth the movement of the central keyframe even more. To improve the animation, we have 2 options. Modify the Open Graph Editor or modify the influence of the movement. Let's open the Graph Editor. For this, we must have the keyframe selected. Click on this symbol. Right-click, Edit Speed Graph. From here, we can smooth the curve, but it can be a little bit more challenging to understand if you do not have experience in After Effects. So let's return to the usual After Effects view. Select the keyframe that we want to smooth. Right-click, Keyframe Velocity. In Influence, we introduce the value 80 at the input and output of the keyframe. The speed must be at 0 since the ball remains still for an instant. Finally, we press OK. The higher the number we give to the influence, the smoother the movement. As you can see, it is completely smooth. Now, we only need to animate the scale to achieve the squash and stretch effect we want. First, we squash the ball. We do this due to the impact of the object on the ground. To do this, we deactivate the control proportions option of the scale by clicking here and create a new keyframe using the value 120% for X and the value 80 for Y. The ball must always maintain the same mass, so the value of the sum of X and Y must always be equal to 200. We advance a frame to the fastest part of the animation and invert the values. We are looking for the ball to stretch with speed. In the upper part of the animation, the ball stays still for an instant, so it must regain its natural appearance. We reset the value to 100 and 100. In the penultimate frame, the fastest part of the drop, we copy and paste a keyframe that we have previously created on the fastest part of the ascent. In this case, it's not necessary to put a keyframe in the last frame since at this point, the animation restarts from the beginning. Let's preview again. As you can see, it does a weird thing. It is because you have to smooth the central keyframe just like we did with the position. So select it, F9, right-click, keyframe velocity, and we set the influence on 80%. And now, yes, we have the bouncing we want. Okay, now we only need to animate the shadow. To do this, create a keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch. Advance 10 frames and lower the scale on 80% to give the effect that the shadow becomes smaller as the ball moves away. Now, advance to the end of the composition and copy and paste the first keyframe. We drag it a little to the last frame. In the center keyframe, we smooth the movement with F9, and then we apply the same influence that we have applied to the ball. In this case, it was 80%. Preview and fabulous! We already have our animation finished. Now, I invite you to download the project. Your task is to bounce the basketball or the yellow ball from the beginning. You can find the balls by clicking on the eye symbol right here. You can also disable the rest so they don't bother you. Get fun and good luck!